Okay, Marsha.
Right.
One of the reasons why we're having this conversation is because I had asked, what is the biggest professional or personal challenge that you're walking through right now? I'd love to just hear from you, what that is for you. What is it that you're currently walking through at the moment that you've been stuck in, that you've been kind of 360ing on a hamster
Yeah.
wheel? Yeah.
So kind of going back, before I'm in my current role, and I think this is good for me to share as a setup. I had worked in higher education for close to 2 decades. And typically working in a system like that, there's already systems set up, CRM systems, things that you need to follow according to whichever department I was working in. There was typically some kind of system I had to enter in students and whatnot, and just processes I needed to follow. Well, to 2022, I ventured out in creating my or being part of a team, but it's basically my own business. So I'm a career coach, and
Nice.
part of that was creating my own system, working for myself. And what I've been challenged with the last 2 years is my system. And I've been trying different types of systems, whether it is using, as far as tracking my clients that I work with, whether it was through Excel or now I'm trying Monday.com, just any CRM system that I've used. And it's been interesting because I've struggled. I was so used to the Salesforce world, and now I have to create a system that is, for myself. And I feel like I've been trying so many different things, trying to, basically duplicate what I had used in previous work experiences. And I've struggled. I've really struggled. And to the point where I haven't been consistent in what I've been using because I'm trying different things to see
Yeah.
what actually clicks. And more isn't necessarily better.
Right. No, it is not always better. It just feeds the cycle
It
quite often.
does. And I've realized that the more things I'm trying, it isn't helping my productivity. Am I
Yeah.
being productive? Yes, but I know that I've overcomplicated some things and I know that I need to pull back and simplify. I just honestly, I don't know. Like, I have ideas of where to begin, but then I'm like, well, this works and this works. I'm trying to piece all the things that work into one. And because I'm working for myself, I've struggled with what's actually good.
Yeah, exactly. So you're kind of identifying it, but I'd like to go deeper into like
Okay.
what the struggle is really about. So what do you think the struggle is really about?
Well, I report to myself.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, because my baseline isn't something that I've ever had before, because I've never worked for myself before like this. I just don't know what's actually good because I have to pat myself on my own back, if you will. I mean, I do have some teammates across the country and they're like, you're doing great, you're doing great. But I'm like, well, but you're working for yourself as well. So I'm like, am I truly? Because I don't like I've gotten from the first year to this year. Yes, I've gotten more clients, which is great. However, I don't feel like it's smooth sailing. It's definitely a lot more trial and error and it's very bumpy. I'd like it to be a little bit smoother, more consistent. And, as if you will, an entrepreneur, it is going to be bumpy. And I've never been this uncomfortable. And the beautiful thing is I am proven for myself that I've made more money from year one to year two, but it's like I haven't been consistent
Right.
in what I'm using because I'm trying all
Right.
the things
All the
to see
things.
what's actually going to
Yeah,
hit.
exactly. Okay, let's come back to the struggles then. And you were saying like one of the things is that you have to report to yourself. What else do you think is a part of the struggle?
Oh,
Even if you're taking a guess here, Marcia.
yeah. I don't necessarily have a team to like say, oh, hey, you take care of this and you take care of this. Whenever I worked in higher education at my highest level, I had kind of things that I could hand off to people and be like, okay,
Yeah.
you can take care of it. Now I'm a one woman show, so to speak, and I'm juggling all the things. I know I'm pretty good at one thing, but I can't be really good at all of the things. And so that's where the challenge is like I'm spending more time on certain things because I'm not as good in those areas. I'm decent, but I know I'm really good at other areas. And so
Yeah.
it's just working for yourself, just even in the beginning. I know I can't be at a position where I can afford to like pay a bunch of people to hand off those things just yet. It's a little mix of that and just the unknown. I'm like, I've got to figure out what's going to stick and what I can be consistent with, but it's a lot of trial and error right now.
Do you see a similarity between having to report to yourself and you juggling all these things, trying to get them to stick? Like if there was a connection there, what would you say is the connection?
I have a moving goalpost.
Mm-hmm.
There's the consistency. And that, yeah, I fully admit I am very type A and not to be cliche, but I could be that what people would determine as a perfectionist. And I'm okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
I know that that concept of don't sweat the small stuff, my mind, it's funny because I say, well, somebody has to. Why not me? And so sometimes I get stuck on those small details. Does it prevent you from moving forward? No, but it definitely can be a barrier sometimes for me to be as productive because I'll get stuck in those small things because I want it to be at my best, essentially. Part of that between the two, what you're asking earlier, is probably because I'm looking for that perfection, if you will. I know it's not, nobody's perfect, but it's just that idea of it has to be right. And I don't know if it's ready truly. Here's the funny thing. I am a career coach, but I do look at resumes for a living and I love it. It's the funniest thing. Like I like picking apart resumes and trying to make and elevate them and make them better for my clients, but I also pick apart myself too. So it's kind of a mix of that because it's ingrained in me to look for those things.
Yeah, you actually are identifying a big part of like the core piece of what the struggle is really about. I'm not sure if you know consciously which piece is that center point. Think about it like a tangled necklace. When you're trying to undo the tangle, if you're working on the outer areas, it's like it seems to tangle more. But the moment
Yes.
that you find that one piece that you just kind of pull on, and then the necklace kind of just starts to unravel. That's what I'm talking about. There's this one piece that is the core source of what is causing the struggle of you being consistent, of having the goalpost stable so that you
Yeah.
can be consistent and really being free to be yourself in that too.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you consciously know what that one piece is.
I don't. I think there's just so much noise in my head.
Yeah.
It's hard to really focus on what that one thing is. So no, consciously, I mean, I'm sure it's there and I'm like, okay, yes.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
I'll
I
pick that
mean,
part too.
you already said it, so you do know, you just didn't receive it.
Okay.
Okay, so go back to the perfectionist thing that you were talking about
Hmm.
and why you want things to be perfect. And I know you were justifying by saying like, well, no, nothing's perfect or nobody's perfect, but that's just a justification of your education and knowledge.
Yeah.
And it kind of pulls you away from finding the core source. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, but I'm struggling with it. I
Okay.
got stuck where we were like with education because yes, I'm
Your
gonna overthink it.
education kind of jumps in to justify like, well, nobody's perfect and it's never going to be perfect. But when you do that, when we do that as human beings, it like you start to go to the center of something and then the justification like whoop kind of pulls you out of it.
Okay.
It's a safety mechanism, a protective mechanism to do those kinds of justifications so that
Mhm.
you actually don't uncover the core source of things, which I'll share why we do that, but you do already know. So try not to justify the perfectionism and just go with what is it that you are trying to do by making things perfect?
What is it that I'm trying to do by making things perfect? To make it easier, to make it seamless, to make it smooth,
What does
to
it
be
need to
productive?
be?
Well, the first word, to be honest, when I'm thinking, I think it needs to be perfect, but I don't even know how to unpack what that perfection, if you will, looks like.
If
Just need
some
it to be done.
Yeah, if something is done perfect, then it needs to be done, what's
Right.
right.
It
So
needs
why
to
are
be done
you
right.
giggling? What's the little giggle about?
Oh, because I think about my upbringing, just full transparency. I was valedictorian, so it's like everything has to be at the highest level. I just, for myself, I don't know what that, what that gauge is really for this new role. And that's where the struggle is because this me working for myself is so new. That's
Yeah,
where I'm like, okay, well, what is actually the right way? Because I'm so used to saying, being told, okay, this is the system we're going to use. And I never really had any input on it. Like they'd be
exactly.
like, well, what could we fix to make it easier? Okay, that's great. But I never really had a choice on what I was going to use. It was just, that's what you're going to use. Now it's like I can do anything and I don't know what the right thing
So
really is.
it's all on
Uh-huh.
it,
Yes.
it's all on you. Now we're identifying the core true source of the problem. Do you see what the core source of the problem is?
Me,
Yeah.
my
And
head.
specifically what?
It's I'm fighting with myself. Like simply put, it's me. It's me trying to make it right versus make it done.
Exactly. You want it to be right, but
Hmm.
you don't know what right is.
Yeah.
That's the core source of this. Think of it again, the core source, trying to make it right when you don't even know what right is, because everyone has always told you what right is. Now you're having
Yes.
to decide what right is. So it's your responsibility. You have to be the one that takes on that responsibility to find out what this is. But all of the systems and, the structures, the strategies, the blueprints, the models, all of it that you've been trying is like all around this. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I can apply this, but if you don't know what right looks like or is, then all the systems aren't going to work because there's no.
Right. Like I can imagine the core and then all the different things. It's like a pie, if you will. I feel like I'm just juggling all the slices, if you will.
Yeah, instead of the sort like uncovering the centerpiece versus you're trying to fix the problems or challenges on all the pieces, all the outside instead of like what's actually the problem.
Right. And I don't even know where to start if I focus on that core source. Like it's again, it's that moving goalpost of
Yep.
how do I not fix it necessarily, but how do I even attack it? Like what would be the strategy?
Yeah, great question. The strategy you're asking about is where it's an internal thing because it's you, not right? Again, like you are your business.
Right. Yeah.
This happens a lot with entrepreneurs. We tend to do things that is what we hear from others or what we've learned throughout our background. But really, we need to be looking internally what's inside
Yeah.
versus all of the external stuff because it's typically something internal that's causing an external block, stuckage. When I know that's not a word, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
I'm tracking.
Yeah, it's a lot more challenging when it's you having to go in. So are you willing to
Right.
do that?
Yes, I am open to it.
Okay. Very good. Here's where we need to start.
Okay.
It starts with that piece of you've always been told what's right. Do you like to be the one that's responsible?
I think it just depends on the situation. I tend to be the person that will take lead and initiate in general. Yes, because
Do you like things to be all on you?
I like to have input. That makes sense.
Okay. But if it's
Um,
all on you, is that okay?
Overall, yes. I think where I'm stuck, because yes, I'm okay with that. It's just having a voice of reason to saying, yes, that's the path. Keep going. That's where the noise in my head, I'm like, okay, do I keep going this direction?
So notice
That's
what you're
the,
saying then. Sorry to
mhm.
interject there, but
No,
notice what
that's
you're
okay.
saying.
I'm okay with what I'm saying is I'm okay with having the responsibility. I just kind of need that push that I'm okay going in that direction.
Yes, it's almost like I'm okay having that responsibility or having it all be on me, but I need someone to validate
Yes.
that I'm on
Abs-
the right path.
Yes.
So it still comes back to you needing to know that you're doing it right, are on the right path, it's going to be right. And that validation externally is what you're seeking. And you
Yes.
don't get that when you're yourself entrepreneur.
Very true. And I question myself every day. I'm like, okay, am I saying the right thing or am I doing the right thing? And, I'll get those like moments, those validating moments, like whenever I get somebody a job. Yay. And it's funny that I'm like, okay, on to the next. Like, I don't sit in that
Mhm.
because I had that moment of success and I want it
Right
again.
on to the next. Yep. Okay, so we've got two layers here now, getting it right and then being validated. What's coming up?
I wrote out getting right, getting validated, but for me, myself, it's like I laugh because I'm like, well, will I ever be satisfied with those first two? Like, I don't know if I'll be fully satisfied because I'm always going to be wanting to help somebody else. Like, I'm
Yep.
always going to want to help somebody else get a job. It's definitely satisfying for me. Like, I've been in a service role, a support role to help somebody. Is that my motivation? Yeah, I like being that person behind the person to help elevate them. I love that part of my job. So I don't know, like between getting it right and getting it validated, I don't know that I'll ever fully feel validated because I know that there's always going to be somebody else I can help. And there's always going to be a new challenge to do that.
And
And
hence,
I think that's where the frustration comes in though,
and I
because
was
it's
just
knowing
gonna say,
you'll never be like Marsha, you're never going to be satisfied.
never, never. So thank you, because that was actually the third piece of
Yeah.
like a dog chasing its tail, that
Hmm.
moment of just pure celebration. But then it's like, okay, now on to the next. I'm not sure how this will land, but this is part of this. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Is that yes, it is a part of wanting to help other people and loving wanting to do that and getting to be a part of that. But it's not really totally about that. It's more about this is how you get validated because you're not getting validated and knowing that you've done something right unless somebody's gotten a job or they had some kind of success in their career. And then it's like, oh, yay, okay, I did it right. Now I'm validated. Oh, but I need to do that again because I don't know
Yeah,
how else to be right or validated. You follow me?
exactly. I'm following
So,
you.
yes, it's part of helping people, but it's also a very kind of selfish thing of I need to keep being validated that I know that I'm doing it right. And I can only do that when somebody gets a success or something of that nature. So let me keep
Yeah.
going and going and going and going, which then you never really stop to get a system in place because the systems aren't validating you.
Ooh, that's good. That's gonna keep me up tonight.
Well, we don't want that, but tell me, Marsha, how's it landing? What's coming
Got
up?
that one. But no, that's so good. Like, I'm gonna pick that one apart. That statement is profound, but it's also like, well, with those systems, I'll never get that validation. Like, so, when does it end? When does it stop? That's the harder part. That's probably where the work actually begins.
Yes.
But what's that first step? Because I keep thinking, the whole KISS method, keep it simple, gotta do that. But when I'm far enough in where I'm seeing successes, but knowing that my systems are never gonna validate me, what's that first step to do that? Like to know that? I
Here's
don't know.
Marsha, and I know you've heard me talk about this on social media, perhaps mainly, but here's that distinction between healing and dealing. So, do you hear a difference between healing and dealing?
Yes.
The difference you hear, and then I'll connect it.
Healing would be, if I could put it simply, it would be moving forward. I know that there's a problem. I know it's there, but I could move forward to take those steps. Dealing is just knowing that I'm tolerating it, but
Mhm.
I'm not necessarily the word recover sticks out, but that might not be the right word. It's not really helping me move forward. It's just like, okay, there's that constant kind of nagging and I deal with it, but I'm not changing anything.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great way to describe it. Dealing is very much so like that cycle you've kind of been in, and no solution ever ends up happening when you're dealing with
Yes.
something. It's a lot of trying, and
Yes.
trying is exhausting because you're in this constant like management state of trying to manage it all,
Mhm.
and you're just dealing with it
Yeah.
instead of actually healing. And I love the way that you said the movement. Healing is like you're getting to that core source, healing at that core source, so then you're not having to deal with or manage anything because it's not even happening in the first place because you
Right.
healed already what was creating the stuff you're dealing with. Just you follow me there?
Yes.
Okay,
Totally.
so the first piece of this, if we connect it back to what we were talking about, it's around healing what this is really about, which is validation. It's
Mm,
healing the need for being validated because it's a need right now.
yeah.
Because if you didn't need it, then you wouldn't like keep going down chasing, does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like it's funny because I had a career of education and I had my undergrad and my master's and I just feel like I've always been in school and it's almost like where's my A? Where's my A plus? Whatever you said, having that need for validation, it's like I don't know why I'm chasing a grade.
Yeah. Well, now you do. It's to be validated.
Yeah, it's I know. And I'm a tough grader.
No
I'm
way.
a tough grader of myself. So it's just funny that that's where the humor in it all comes in. I mean, I think I'm more of that velvet hammer. Like I can be gentle, but I want to help people in a way that they hear me, but there might be some things I might say to them to kind of help coach them. Maybe it's an interview. I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work, but I feel like I have a soft approach to it. But I literally say, okay, the reason why I tell them method to my madness and I tell them this is what employers are looking for. They're not looking for this part in your resume. They're looking for the meat of this part. And for me, I can be pretty brutal to myself. Maybe I'm justifying. I think a lot of people can do that to themselves, but I hear my parents' voices in my ear.
Yeah.
Our criticism can sometimes sound like what our parents might say whenever they were critical or parenting. And then I hear that whenever I'm trying to validate myself, I hear my parents' voice when I do try to critique. So I can be really tough on myself, a lot tougher than I am on other people.
Yeah.
But the need for that being validated, that one actually sticks out more. That's where the healing is, healing that need.
Yes. When you have healing of that need, then the systems, it's like your goalpost, boom, it's firmly planted now
Yeah.
because you're not going to be in the cycle. It's like you can see things more clearly when that need for validation isn't what you're chasing.
Did I tell you I was a college athlete?
No.
So the competitiveness in me
Yeah.
really sticks out.
Yeah. I could see
And I
that.
work with athletes. So I help athletes get jobs. So that's where like the competitiveness is always like in there. We've had some sports references and
I
whatnot.
know we have.
And I played in a very individual sport of golf. I was competing with myself out there on the course, just in my head, in my brain. And that's like one of the hardest things is just, knowing that you're always going to be like, I could have putt better. I could have hit greens more or whatever. Whenever you said chasing that need, that is so true.
Hmm.
I am chasing that need versus even just getting the validation. I'm chasing the need for it.
Exactly.
And that's the competitiveness in me. Like I feel like I'm always going to be in that motion. I don't know how to like really slow that down.
Yeah. I mean, and not just slow it down, but stop it so that you can
Slow it down
stop chasing.
first.
Yeah. Like, let's just stop it so that you can not only in your business, but your personal life too. Because you had mentioned, not in this particular conversation, but in the questionnaire I had you fill out,
Okay.
boundaries and not being able to hold firm your boundaries. But that also connects to because you're chasing the need of being validated. It's very hard to hold a boundary in place when you need someone or something else to validate you. It's
Mm.
like, I want to have this boundary. But underneath is, well, but the need is greater than the boundary, and I need this. So boundary is gone. See what I mean by this is the core source of it and why this needs
Yeah.
healing. And I get it's one thing to be like, okay, yeah, I need to heal. How do I heal? Well, that's where the work comes in, this 180 that I talk about so much. What's coming up right now? I feel like you have a thought.
What's going to feed that need? That's the work.
Mhm.
I'm
And
chewing on that right now.
okay. And do you want to feed the need or do you want to be rid of the need?
It's hard for me to discern what, like, to me, it's like if it's fed, it's that need is satiated, it's full. So I wouldn't need to feed it, but you're saying get rid of it. That would be ideal. It's
Think about anything you need to feed will always be hungry for more. Like even my
yeah,
plants, I need to feed them water, even though they just had water.
yeah,
They got full, but it's going to be depleted. And then I'm going to have to
right.
fill it again, and then it'll deplete, so that's why it satiates, but for how long?
I know.
That's
It
why
just seems
I'm
so
saying,
abrupt.
mm.
It
So
seems so abrupt.
oh, this is so good, Marsha, because think
Yes.
about what's speaking right now. We're actually challenging the need to be gone. And it's
Mm,
so much a need that you're like, oh no, don't take that from me. Because up until this point, it's the only way you've known how to receive validation. And that
mm,
validation, let's back it up again, means you're
yeah,
right. And then that right means you did it perfect. And then that just kind of leads back to the whole validation thing. And then, like, okay, now I feel good. Oh, yes, let's move on.
right. It's been a fun cycle. I'm kidding, but I'm kidding.
I
Not
know
fun.
it's not
I have
fun.
other words other than fun. But yeah, it's been on repeat and it hasn't been conducive. And of course, I think, okay, maybe this is just part of that learning that I need to go through, but I know it's not serving me well. When you said the need is greater than the boundary, like there's so many things, a lot of just things I want to chew on from today that I'm like, ah, I know I'm being stubborn.
Yeah, this is like where the rubber meets the road and where someone
Yeah.
has to decide to heal or
Hmm.
not.
Right.
It starts with a decision. Like to have healing means you would be free from it. Like
I
think
think you
about
said it
it,
before, choice versus decision.
decision.
Yeah,
Because when you decide, you kill off every other option. It's done.
right.
When you choose, well, I'm going to choose this today, but tomorrow I might choose that. There's flexibility in choice. So it's not this firm, like, boom, done.
I'm terrible with options. I've been holding on to four pillows, throw pillows that are inserts because I can't decide on what pillow covers. Pillow covers.
Yeah.
This is silly to me that I want to put over because there's so many options. And it's like when I have all those options or those choices going back to work, when I have other like CRM systems that I could use, I haven't made a decision on this is where I'm going to go. I'm just going to put 100% on that because would there be something better? Is
Because it
like
may
my
not be
thought.
the right one.
Right, exactly. Haven't set and I think you had the most wonderful reframe when I think it was through a message. It was about standards versus
Mhm.
boundaries. That one like stuck with me because I was like, yeah, I think going back to whenever I filled out the form of just not having boundaries for myself, that you're like, well, no, it's really just having a standard. I think if I set that standard and just made that decision, and that would be an end all be all. I haven't quite put my foot down on myself.
I mean, honestly, Marsha, that's why like this is going to be a challenge to be free from because
Yeah.
think about it like, I mean, you have kids, so when they
Hmm.
were younger, did they have something like a blankie that was like their little comfort or binkies, the pacifier?
Yeah, yeah, I
And
just took it away and
yeah,
she forgot about it.
right. But in taking it away, what did they do? Did they freak out?
No, not really.
Oh, good.
Like
Okay.
initially, I mean, she was looking for it, but then it was out of sight, out of mind
Yeah.
after like 2 days.
Right. So there's that initial shock of like, wait, what? My
Yeah,
blanket's gone or my being like I there's that little bit of freak out, which is exactly the same thing that's happening for you of like if I heal the need for validation and it goes away, like I don't know, I kind of want that. Again, it's the only way you've known how to receive validation right now is through these external factors. But once you decide to be free from that, it starts very same experience. First few days, it's a little like, whoa, I feel like I'm missing an arm. But now it dissipates, it goes away. And then you realize, wow, I'm actually so much better without it because you wouldn't be in the dealing cycle, dog chasing its tail.
yeah. Amen. Like you said something a second ago, and I even audibly heard myself breathe out loud. I'm like, I was more of like, okay, a release, but it's just like this is the kind of thing that I have to remind myself on the daily because that need is so strong.
So what's greater, the need to heal or the need to be validated?
See, this is where like I'm analyzing
I
what would
know,
be
yes.
the need to heal only because I know that if I healed, I'm moving forward.
Okay. You just made a decision.
Did I?
I mean, you haven't declared it as a decision, but you did just like,
Yes.
maybe it was more of a choice. You made a choice.
I'm literally thinking about putting a post-it note above my computer saying, decide to heal, decide that the need to heal is greater.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like I said, I'm going to be chewing on some things
I
tonight.
know. Yes. Do you
Mm,
feel like we accomplished uncovering what's really going on in your struggle and what this is really about?
yes. And I know that this is just scratching the surface. This is something every day that I'm facing with every client that I work with. So it's almost like, again, like I said, I need to put that post-it note above my computer that's just saying, decide that the need to heal is greater than the need for validation. Because at least I know making that decision, I can move forward. It's not like, okay, I'm done. I have to choose it every day,
Well, that's
or
the
I
great
have to decide on it every day. I
No,
know
the
I'm trying to be
beautiful
careful with
thing
my
is
words.
like when you decide, it's done. It's then the work starts of healing, but you have to decide first. It's kind of like a decision. I've used this analogy before.
Okay.
You decide to get on a plane, and
Yes.
once the door closes, it's done. Like you are
Yeah,
there.
you're on.
That's
Yeah.
what we mean by decide. Like you can't, okay, you know what? We've already taken off, but I'm going to choose to get off. No, you're sitting there. You decided to get on the plane and you're on the plane.
Yeah.
So that's how decision works. It's like once you've decided, you're there. Now, you might be sitting on the plane and freaking out because you want to get off. And
Yeah.
so you have to kind of work through those emotions. That's very
That's it.
similar. It's
Yeah.
like the decision is done, but now you're working through the tangles. It just
You know,
makes working the tangles more easeful and to do once you've decided. Otherwise, you're going to keep kind of going, oh, but I think this neat. Let me just feed it and it should be okay.
so when I think about you, how the way you said that, one thing just reminded me. I think I to just kind of be that validation, but I did decide to leave my career
Yeah.
of working in higher education for nearly 2 decades to work for myself. So I'm on the plane.
Hmm.
At least I know that I made that decision. Now that I'm on the plane, there's a next decision I have to make too.
Yes.
And then you're like, well, that's where I need to like, I'll continue to process those emotions. But like, it felt, well, it felt good in my head, but it actually felt better to say it out loud. I already made the decision. I
You
left
did.
that career.
Yes. Good awareness.
What I appreciate about you, you're reframing things in a way that it just makes sense for me. Like I love it when people reframe things versus trying to actually solve anything, but you're reframing something that's like obvious to you, and it's easier on to see it versus me.
Sure.
Like I'm working on myself. It lands for me really well.
Good.
But I won't be like chewing on it all along. Good way,
All
in the best way possible.
In the best way possible. All right, awesome. Okay, so this would just be more so for you. That
Oh,
next
thank
step
you.
from here, you're welcome. That next step from here is around this validation piece and
Okay.
uncovering where the need started from in the first place. So that would be your next step is uncovering where did that come from?
This is therapy.
Why do you say that?
Oh, because my background's counseling. So I'm like, this is where the therapy side comes in. But that's why I appreciate coaching is because it's a mix of that, more of a directive. And I'm not going to try to downplay counseling because my background's in counseling and I was even a counselor for a short stint. But I think that's why I appreciate coaching more. Not that counseling isn't applicable, but I just appreciate more of the coaching style
Yeah.
overall because it is a directive.
It is. Yeah, agreed. Once you know where it's come from, then I want you to like start pulling, almost like pulling it through more. What about that place that it came from, that it became a need? So that's where you start.
I'm definitely going to have a lot of conversations on my walks in the morning with myself.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And quite
Yeah.
honestly, like let go of all the systems and the structures and the CRM, that time blocking thing, that's not serving you right now. And it's actually
Yeah.
pulling you away from this. because it just keeps feeding the need and not the
Yeah.
best way, there's no point in continuing to do it. You've already gotten clients in this kind of chaotic place you've been at with all
Yes.
the trying stuff you've been doing. So you can still keep getting clients doing
Mhm.
that. Focus your attention on this. Don't distract yourself with the other stuff. The healing of the need of the validation.
Okay. I just needed to hear that.
You needed that validation. No way.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't reading it. I'm like, okay, yep.
That was awesome.
Oh, I appreciate you. That was hilarious.
Likewise, you're welcome.
We can laugh about it now because I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm a work in progress, as we all are, but I just think that was funny.
I mean, again, why like just don't even think about the other stuff. You've been successful doing what you're doing. Has it felt that way? No. You focusing on the need for validation is going to help you in so many, like way more than it would to try and keep focusing on which system should I use and maybe this one and that. Like just drop it for right now. I know that might be hard, but that's part of
Yeah,
it.
I'm on the plane. That's why I'm like, okay, I already
Exactly.
made the decision. I'm on the plane.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm gonna remind myself I already made the decision.
Good work. This has been fun. It's
I
been my
know. I
pleasure.
appreciate you. I do
Yeah,
appreciate you.
likewise, my pleasure.